They're making too much noise.
I'm going to sacrifice them to the old gods. Hello, it's host Eric here, talking to Finnish people. We're going to talk about conflicts within the ego. In other words, what makes people non-optimal? I think is the best way to put that question. What makes people function non-optimally? What does it mean to function non-optimally? So we express that sometimes as conflicts within the ego, which can mean such things as, uh, I mean, they usually have to do with perception of self and identity. And if an individual understands themselves as whole in a way that is accepting of their own myriad shortcomings and seeks to maximize the extent to which, through shared honesty, those mutual shortcomings, shared or in contrast to one another, in combination with mutual strengths, can be used to provide solvency regarding non optimal functioning for all human beings. Convoluted but safe way to say all that shit. So, to be non-optimal in my mind is to be doing shit you don't want to do. Now, this is a very ENTP perspective on optimal and non-optimal. It's pretty simple. I've got a very straightforward understanding of how the world ought to be from Eric's perspective. Eric's perspective is the world should be such that Eric only gets to do and only has to do exactly what he wants all the time. And it's fine because I don't want to do anything bad. That's sort of like little Eric standing in the back of the head going, this is how the world should be. And he basically defines it for the rest of us in there. There's a number of different people in my head. Like, I think it's true for everybody. In fact, I refer to myself in my head as us. And sometimes I will talk to myself in third person a lot. I don't actually call myself host Eric in third person. I just call myself Eric, but I will scold myself all the time by saying, Eric, god damn it, fucking Eric, fucking stupid, like that shit all the time, right? Sometimes out loud when I'm by myself, there's nothing else going on, nobody around to hear me or whatever. It's not for performance reasons. It's something I think I picked up from my mom who muttered to herself all the time. Anyway, a conflict within the ego then is something where you busting your own chops in a way that is not playful and self-liking. I think is one way you can be non-optimal. Another is if you're busting your chops about shit you don't own. If like I value certain things, and if I fuck up on them, I feel really bad. The things I value that I know I value, in which case there's no excuse for failing at it. It's not like I can say this doesn't matter. It does matter. I know it matters. I said it matters, and yet I still fucked up on it. And I feel it matters, and I see these people affected, and I still fucked up on it. And fuck you, Eric. It's like that kind of a thing. You got to be able to do all that shit without the so fuck you, Eric. You fucking loser, right? You got to leave off the last couple of things. You got to, and when that gets extreme, it turns into, you know, oh my God, I hope when you walk out of this house today, Eric, you get fucking murdered by somebody, you fucking worthless sack of shit. You have no business being alive at all. I don't know why you were wasting air for the rest of the people in the world. Everyone will be so much happier when you're dead. Like, that's how it used to be, right? When I was an alcoholic, that was my morning cup of coffee right there. And it was great. I loved it. It was so much fun doing that in the shower every morning and saying
See,
shame,
this is why
screaming
I
it
don't
sometimes.
become an alcoholic or anything, because I already do that and I'm sober. So I can't imagine it getting any better.
Well, yeah, and I've been through periods of time doing that when I wasn't a drunk too. So it's not just being an alcoholic. It's my recent experience of it was that. So the point is, we all have the potential for I think self-loathing, and I think the number one job in reducing non-optimal functioning is to say to resolve those things. If I feel as though I am not appreciated enough, not recognized enough, then I've got two options. I can either seek that in a way that works, or I can voice my indignation about it in a way that doesn't work. If I am seeking a chick, right? Like I'm kind of seeking a chick, but I'm kind of seeking a chick. I'm not going crazy, right? I'm not like, oh well, I have to not think about anything but getting a chick. If you do that, then that's bad, right? So basically, it's a matter of I have to come to terms with the fact that I'm lesser than others in lots of ways, comparatively, and I am lesser than my own standards in a lot of ways internally, and that's okay. And some of those standards I have to change. Like, if they are my own standards, fine, and I fail to live up to them, okay, I'll feel a little shame about that, and it's good, and it's natural, and it's to be deserved. If they're not my own standards, they've been internalized bullshit, then I need to purge my system of that bullshit because there's no reason for me to be feeling bad about shit I shouldn't be feeling bad about just because other people think they should. No reason why I should not eat McDonald's just because other people say it's unhealthy when it's obviously not. Same thing, right? It's a nice logical fit state of affairs. I eat McDonald's all the time and I'm perfectly fine. It's obviously healthy, and yet people still tell me it's not. It doesn't matter what they say because I'm the one eating it. I'm not telling them that they should eat more McDonald's until they tell me I should eat less. Then I think it's a good idea to tell them that. No, I should not eat less. How many Big Macs have you had today? What is wrong with you? Do you not care about your health one bit? You need 3 more Big Macs right now. That's what I mean. I might tell somebody who busts my chops about eating McDonald's. But anyway, the point is that normally, under normal circumstances, I'm going to tell them to eat McDonald's. What the fuck are they telling me to eat for, right? That's what it boils down to. It's like, whatever it is you are possessing within yourself that is true, the extent to which it is a truth that others must acknowledge can only occur if there's actual injustice or if, in fact, that its own inherent goodness draws consensually that which it seeks. That's my speech.
When speaking more to the ego, I guess in socionics terms, is what I was referring to more right at the get-go. I guess in my mind, it wouldn't be as much issues within, like actual conflicts occurring within the ego, but rather sort of your personality as a whole and your being as a whole causing maybe the normal operations of things to happen sort of out of sync. And what I mean by that is like, I guess I was thinking about more conflicts in terms of, we like to think of like personalities as like you have like this dominant function, auxiliary, stuff like that.
Functions, yeah.
Conflicting where you got something else trying to bump up and take the lead because there's some essentially short circuit happening.
Like NETI is not conflicting, NEFI is conflicting. And NITE is not conflicting, NITI, like INFJ, is conflicting. However, each conflicting, this is my theory, by the way. I say it as though it's just simple fact, but this is just my thinking on it. I actually thought about this a while back. It's from one of the old papers, I don't know. And it's like, so anyway, some of them lead you to more balance. Like the more balanced conflicting types are INFJ and ESTJ, where ESTJ you've got SITE instead of SI and TI. So ENTPs are balanced, but they're balanced in a way that it's misleading to call it that. It's because ENTPs, all the functions are the right functions for each other. They're the right set. It's like TE is not supposed to go with NE. They don't go together. Jonesing for a pastrami sandwich. I wonder if you will go and get me.
What's up, eyeball?
You were talking about conflicts that would throw your 4 functions out of sync. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So, like a rearrangement of your top 4? that what you mean?
Not an actual rearrangement. I'm not talking about the actual order of things being rearranged. I'm saying there's an order that they would prefer to operate in, but you're finding
Yeah.
that your sort of internal sort of problem solving or just the way you go about existence, it's like you're instead of reaching an obstacle and then learning to overcome it, instead you're backing down in one area and trying to over supplement in maybe a weaker area or something like that. The reason why I was talking about ego conflict is, say if you have somebody who's like an INTJ, I was wondering if there would be a situation where most of their personality would be tied up in introverted intuition, but they consistently, maybe they'd be in a situation where the introverted intuition was perhaps somehow got devalued in a way, even though it is valued. I'm talking, this is more, I guess maybe it wouldn't apply in the NTJ's
I think
case.
you're relating it too much to FE, host Ken. They're not going to necessarily apply that change that you're talking about to FE. That's the answer.
Okay.
But you bring up an interesting point, I think, in general, which is with NI, it does go with TE, and why does it go with TE? Because NI is a whole idea that's not going to change, and so you can set a set of steps to execute it. NE is going to produce ideas that are, well, here's the kind of the guts of it, but we'll figure out how it actually plays out as we do it. That's not conducive to making TE steps to, right? That's why TI goes with NE and TE goes with NI. INTJ is not conflicted in that regard. And to the extent that
maybe there are conflicts.
to the extent that they exhibit internal conflict, it's because FE's in their 7th slot. They don't understand how to manage the perceptions of others. And the best strategy for doing so is for them to default to their FI and trust their internal feelings, like I think Megabro does, basically. Megabro, he is vulnerable. He is vulnerable in his lack of he's smart about it. Put it that way. He's smart about it, you know? And I don't know how or why that happens in his head. I know that that's not necessarily true for INTJs in general. My friend John Sullivan is probably comes across as awkward to most people, and yet I love hanging out with him. It's easy for me to hang out with him. He talks about interesting things, and that's the thing that INTJs and ENTPs often will have in common, I think, is that we are both interested in similarly abstract and complicated shit. Give them trophies for having a pulse. Congratulations, you've got a pulse. First place. First place in pulse having contest. All your opponents are dead.
So, I don't know if that would really, I wonder what that sort of inner, I guess I'm directing it more now towards like an inner conflict with your self. I'm loosely using the self term, but I guess for them, like the NTJs, then I'm wondering where that would take place. Maybe conflictions with FI or something. I don't know what that would look like necessarily.
I think it's FE driven. It's 7th slot FE driven, and to the extent that it's anything else, it's maybe like SI driven in the 8th, which is SI is going to be firing off sort of identity chunks and identity references that aren't very organized or thought out or directed because it's not conscious. And so as a consequence, it's going to mix in with their polar FE. They're going to be insistent upon referencing those pieces of existing knowledge in ways that aren't conducive to managing perceptions. And then FI, instead of guiding them towards the FE and things by saying, well, this isn't working, it probably just makes them feel bad. And then they don't have any other solution than the one I just worked through until they metacognate all this shit that I just said. Somebody say, you are wrong, Eric, or you are right, Eric. No? Or
I'm just hold on. Based INTJ is trying to speak. Go ahead, Megabro.
Well, ego conflict, or this is what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was trying to. I don't know where the hell I'm going with it.
He's just
I just brought it up.
just making shit up, seeing what sticks against the wall.
Yeah.
But go with it, Mega Bro. What you got for us?
Well, INTJs can have a lot of problems with the self-concept. For one thing, SI and FE would make a really strong self-concept, and we don't value either of those. For example, I have a extremely bad memory about my own life in a concrete sense. But if you ask me about how something works in general, I could probably answer. It's like I can't remember how my life works, but I can understand how everyone else's life works. It's kind of weird. And then if you get into the FE, it's like we can kind of see what someone might be wanting us to do, and it's like, I don't.
But everyone will ask why you weren't there, Mega Bro. Whatever shall I do? How will I explain it? Their perceptions of you. How will I manage them? You must go. Like that? You don't like that?
So what I do is I just like sweep that away.
Just sweep it away. In general, what do you think about this arguments to begin with? But everybody's going to think. Probably not your favorite.
No.
Right.
Just no?
No.
No. Yeah, I didn't know if the way I was asking the questions was, sort of feeler biased or whatever.
You did find Captain Neuroses. Now,
Thanks.
Ken, I do want to talk about you and your relationship between NI and FE and stuff, right? I think the greatest thing that happens to INFJ as far as growth that's attainable early on and stuff is connecting the fact that that NI can be chunked out. Like, you go, all right, if you must, first of all, I don't think you should, but I bet you do. But if you must view any given thing like a conversation or whatever in terms of binary, I did well, I was horrible. I bet you probably do that. But if you must do that, then at least chunk it out so you remember that each individual failure gets isolated and buried by everything around it. And so you go, okay, well, that doesn't infect me. It's just an isolated mishap. Now, the reality, of course, is you shouldn't view it like that at all. You should view everything as a success as best you can, and either a successful elimination of possible tests of concept, which is what we call failure, or you are happy because you succeeded, like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet you do it holistically, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with holistically. The downside of that is if the holistic vision being had is not an optimistic one, then it operates less like working towards a pinnacle of something and more like sinking into a sinkhole, where it's like these concepts that you have where even if you have a given situation, there were failures and there were successes and they're all mixed together, but depending on where the focus is at, there can be a bias towards either the successes or the failures. And over time, I think, unless you're actively working against it mentally, then it becomes almost innate nature to be like, oh, well, I failed in this regard.
Is there like a typhoid Mary of failures that causes you to tumble into a worry waterfall? Is there a typhoid Mary of failures that causes you to tumble into a worry waterfall?
I'm trying to think of. I don't think it's any one given thing. I'm just trying to think of sort of not necessarily what causes it, but how the snowball effect kind of gets rolling. I had something in my mind and now I forgot it. I do agree. I do agree with what Mega Bro said earlier about not really having a concrete sense of himself, like in reference to the past. It's like I'll get that sometimes, where it's like the narratives. I mean, I'm not saying he gets this specifically, but my flavor of it is that I have narratives in my head that if they're negative, and if I'm telling myself, oh, these people, they probably see me in this way, they probably don't like me, or things like that. The problem is, because I don't necessarily have the most concrete sense of what actually happened, that narrative can very quickly become what actually happened, even though it was totally in my head. Which is...
But, Ken,
Hmm.
you remember the time you made that big plan and became a pole dancer and swore you were going to make millions of dollars? That... You're not misremembering it. That really was a bad idea, okay? So
It really was
don't
a bad
always
idea?
trust that
Okay.
NI, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because
That wasn't him.
I, out of pity, I put a couple dollar bills down there, and I still have nightmares about it.
All your dreams.
Uh,
You know it's not nice to feed an eagle like that. That's just unkind.
I was unkind? That was not an unkind joke.
You
That's a
can't
funny
and
joke.
cover
Host
the
Ken
girl
didn't
up in
actually become a
college.
pole dancer, you
You
see.
can do better.
I can do
You're
better?
a good girl. You're smart.
Uh,
Kenny,
huh?
okay, I'll keep that in mind.
You coming to my defense, Zeke? Is that how this is going? Backing me up?
more like you just shouldn't be on stage and there's other strippers more qualified.
It's got a point.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there.
Yeah.
Zeke's like, I'm not looking out for you. I'm looking out for the integrity of pole dancing. I'm trying to keep the standards up.
It's not
Oh,
something
no.
it's not something you just luck into, Ken. It takes serious skills. I mean, those buttons are a challenge. So,
It really
anyway,
depends on what strip club you go to, because there's some really low end. You're like, you're a stripper.
I
Interesting.
don't go to strip clubs, so I don't know. Anyway, the point is not about strip clubs, but about host Ken's neuroses and my diagnosis. I've begun playing psychiatrist apparently and telling people what's wrong with them. So
Everyone plays psychiatrist with me. It's the total opposite of the INFJ thing. I go to everyone else and I get therapy. That's how it works.
Easy to fix though, INFJ. You know what it is?
Hmm?
You just gotta put your failures in a box, tie it up with a ribbon, and mail it off to Santa Claus. Okay? Put your successes on the mantle and rub them with your hand, saying, "Good job, host Ken." That's it.
That's it? That's the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had to do it because Santa and I have a deal. If I did that, then he's going to give me some extra shit this Christmas.
Okay.
All right, so that ends this episode of Talking with Famous People, apparently. I hope you enjoyed it. It was absolutely filled with moisture. And that's how I like my Talking with Famous People episodes. Hopefully you do as well.